What if the real terror wasn't the dungeon, but your doorstep? We're counting down 10 ordinary habits and materials that guaranteed pain, infection, and breakdown. No myths, no monsters, just the daily mess. Keep watching to see how the basics, food, water, clothing, even sleep, turned into a cycle of steady damage. The contrast with modern life is brutal, and every item builds that case. Number 1, teeth rotting out by your 20s. The smile was a medical record. Dark, pitted, and aching by early adulthood. Teeth wore down fast, not from candy, but from daily bread and porridge that carried grit. Stone-ground flour shed tiny chips into the meal. That grit scraped enamel like sandpaper, and the crumbs sat in gums, feeding bacteria that built thick calculus. Hearth smoke dried mouths and inflamed tissue, so plaque hardened faster. Tools were crude, knives as picks, twine as floss. Folk fixes stung and stripped. Vinegar rinses etched enamel, and cautery sealed pain while killing healthy tissue. Skulls tell the rest. Heavy tartar rings, hollowed roots from abscess drainages, and flat, polished biting edges match the grit story. When decay hit the pulp, infection traveled through the jaw and into the blood. Sepsis followed. A bad molar could drop a strong worker in a week. Number 2, drinking water contaminated with sewage. The cup on the table carried more risk than a sword on the wall. Water looked bright in a jug, but waste moved through it, quiet and sure. Latrines leaked into soil after rain. Pens bled slurry into lanes. Dyers rinsed vats, and the stream turned into a work sink. Downriver, hides were washed, so the same flow took rinse water, blood, and ash. Flood season smeared it wider, lifting cess from banks into wells. Many wells sat shallow and close to pits, so seepage won. That mix carried dysentery, typhoid-like fevers, and gut parasites. The defense came hot. Beer and pottage were boiled, and heat killed much of the threat. Low-alcohol ale filled cups, not for cheer, but for survival. Number 3, constant lice, fleas, and bedbugs. Sleep was a truce with insects that never held for long. Clothing became a camp for body lice, hiding in seams and hems, feeding at night, then retreating into folds by day. Floors spread fleas. Fresh rushes and straw bedding looked clean, but eggs and dirt rode in together, and bites came in clusters. Bed frames and chests gave bedbugs cover. They slipped into joints and cracks, then tracked heat and breath like hunters on a stage. Many kept animals indoors for warmth and safety, and that traffic brought more pests to the threshold. Itching stayed constant. Nails broke skin, and small bites turned to sores that festered. In some outbreaks, these insects carried worse, acting as messengers for disease. Digs pulled proof from the ground. Parasite eggs in latrines, nits stuck to comb teeth, fibers matted with residue. Number 4, open sewers running through streets. The neighborhood drain was a ditch that breathed back. Gutters ran along the lane and carried slops, ash, and animal waste, then stalled in low spots where the smell rose and stayed. Civic rules tried to tame it. Town bylaws set hours to dump chamber pots, fined people for tossing offal, and told butchers to keep scraps away from the curb. Enforcement sagged under habit. Market days overflowed. Rushes laid for footing trapped grease and hair, and the mix baked into the surface like a stage set that never changed. Street digs read like layers in a jar. Compacted sludge bands, broken pottery, and bone chips mark repeated dumping, while ruts show wheels spreading it door to door. Every step lifted microbes onto shoes, floors, and cutting boards, turning the block into one large petri dish. Number 5, zero painkillers for injuries or illness. A sprain, a toothache, a labor wound. pain stayed. Remedies sat close at hand, but none could turn it off for long. Healers burned and bled. Cautery sealed vessels and sealed screams, while bloodletting promised balance when the body ran hot or wet. Teeth came out with irons, fast and rough. Hands pinned shoulders. A strap filled the mouth. Ale dulled edges. Poppy sap or willow bark took a little of the fire, then faded like a weak lantern in fog. Fevers met cool cloths, broths, and prayer, as surgeons worked with speed, not silence. Guides on humors laid out how to drain and purge. Manuals on practical cuts mapped where to slice and stitch. After the cut, shock and filth often finished the job. Number 6. Routine food shortages and famine. The harvest decided the year. Weather decided the harvest. Fields ran on grain, and grain ran the menu, the rent, and the mood. A few wet weeks flattened heads and sprouted mold. Yields fell, bins stayed thin, and poor storage let pests and damp ruin what survived. Rye held a hidden threat: ergot. The tainted kernels slipped through, bringing cramps, visions, and gangrene in some seasons. Reserves vanished fast when taxes and rents took their share, leaving households to stretch husks and broth. Prices climbed. In runs of bad years, bread cost more while loaves shrank. Before new crops, the lean months returned like a clock. Children slowed. Wounds stayed raw. With fewer fats and scarce protein, bodies lost cover, and mild fevers dug in. Hunger thinned the blood, slowed healing, and turned minor infections fatal. Even when meat turned up, it brought a new set of problems. Number 7. Meat crawling with worms. Protein was precious, but heat and time were not your friends. Meat left a block warm, then sat on a stall as the day rose. Without chill, a fresh cut turned busy. Flies found it fast. They laid eggs along seams and in marrow ends, and the crawl began by evening. Butchers worked on shared blocks, rinsed with the same water, and delays stacked risk. Salting and smoking helped, yet some parasites rode through, tiny, hardy, and patient. Trichinella lurked in undercooked pork. Tapeworms came with beef or fish, their heads small, their chains long. People trimmed dark patches and sniffed for rot, but a clean edge did not prove safety. Latrine pits later tell the tale. Parasite eggs thick in layers, and bones with anemia marks echo the damage. A feast could seed months of cramps and fatigue. Bread was safer until it wasn't bread anymore. Number 8, bread mixed with dirt, sawdust, or chalk. The staple loaf could be half filler and half lie. Bread kept bellies steady, but profit pushed corners and trust thinned with the dough. Bakers stretched flour with bran-heavy sweepings, ground chaff, even sawdust. Chalk brightened color, so a pale loaf looked rich. Millstones shed grit into meal, and those tiny chips rode into every bite. Bylaws and guild rules set weights and purity with fines on paper, but watchmen missed sacks swapped at dawn and ovens working at night. Mouths paid first. Abrasives scoured enamel and drove deep wear. Guts paid next, with irritation, cramps, and slow loss of strength. Think of a whetstone on steel, used day after day, small passes that add up. Each bite sanded teeth and scraped intestines, turning the staple into slow damage. Clothes didn't help. They trapped the problem against your skin. Number 9. Clothes never fully washed. Ever. Your shirt was a second skin, and it never shed. Washing meant a trip to running water, harsh ash lye, and hours of labor, so cleaning came seldom and light. Most owned few linens. Inventories list a short set, 1 or 2 shifts, maybe a spare, so garments rotated, not refreshed. Heavy outerwear stayed dry cleaned by air and sun, rarely scrubbed. Sweat salts, hearth smoke, oils, and dust built layers that set like varnish. Lye stripped grime, but also ate fibers, so people saved cloth from the wash, not scrubbed it clean. Seams housed lice and their knits, safe from brief rinses. Textile digs back this up. Wear shines at cuffs, collars, and underarms, with sweat stains fixed into threads like a museum label. That fabric became a warm, damp habitat. Rashes spread, sores lingered, and smell marked rank as surely as a badge. When skin broke, the wound stayed open to the world. Number 10. Skin infections that never healed. A scratch could become a season-long battle. Skin split, then stayed raw, because the body had few breaks and fewer aids. Dirt and grit won ground. Small nicks turned shiny and crusted with impetigo. Deeper wounds swelled red and hot with cellulitis. Damp folds grew ringworm and other fungi, spreading in slow circles. Rough cloth rubbed edges open each day, like sand on a rope, and healing slipped backward. People reached for salves and poultices, fat, herbs, and resins that soothed or sealed, but results varied. Some burned the margin with cautery to close it. The scar held, but infection often stayed beneath. Bones from graves carry marks of long inflammation, and manuals describe washes, powders, and the iron.